When you hear the phrase soft as steel, what do you think of? While the word steel might conjure up images such as massive high-rise buildings, where does the soft part come in? And what exactly does this mean in our work and in our lives? Welcome to the Soft as Steel podcast with your host, Dennis Doran, featuring engaging conversations with a wide range of industry leaders around soft skills, how we practice love, inclusion, social justice, and compassionate leadership that's everlasting in the workplace. And now, here's Dennis Doran.
One of the blessings of launching the Soft as Steel podcast is the incredible people who have joined me for conversations about the people part of our industry. So my guest today is a special one, Angel lyke-Osuji. Her great work in her professional position with Donald Kent Watts Cork, one of Australia's largest privately owned providers of quantity surveying, project management, and associated services, and her other activities even drew the attention of a close friend and industry thought leader, Gretchen Gagel. In Angel's own words, I grew up following my dad to construction sites as his trusted sidekick. It's a no-brainer that my curiosity led me to fall in love with the construction industry. My passion for the industry has led me to venture into various sectors to learn and understand how to help organizations achieve their construction goals and deliver exceptional quality and timely projects. But it's not just about numbers and timelines for me. What truly excites me is seeing young professionals pursue fulfilling careers. I am dedicated to fostering high performance and encouraging young professionals and early career starters to step out of their comfort zones. Angel began her career journey in 2017 as a junior architect after earning a bachelor's degree in architecture. She has held several positions inside and outside the construction industry. And in 2021, she completed her course of study and earned a master's degree in construction management. I could say much more, but I'll leave the introduction by mentioning that Angel has a blog. It's at Angel_Osuji, her last name, where she documents beautifully her career journey and offers valuable tips to support personal, career, and professional growth. Angel, so glad to have you on the Soft as Steel podcast.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much, Dennis, for having me.
So you say quite a bit about yourself in a very understandable way with a strong thread of humility. I might attribute that to being your dad's sidekick and what you learned about our industry. And the way I talked about your journey and holding positions inside the outside the industry, I'm sure, because I'm sure you've probably done more preparation than some of my guests might do, that I talk quite a bit about people's qualities. I kind of take as a given that in our industry, if you're succeeding and progressing in our industry, you know how to do your job in a technical sense. The difference is how you go about doing that job and building relationships on a day-to-day basis with people. And so when I looked at one of your positions outside the construction industry, it was very easy because you document it in your LinkedIn profile, and it's very well presented, by the way. It's very easy for me to look at that and say, well, she was learning things about soft skills. She was learning about how to deal with people. And which is magnificent. Again, I hope many young people will hear this interview and read your LinkedIn profile and connect with you in a variety of ways. Because again, what you've done is you are on a day-to-day basis, you are continuing to prepare yourself for more and more responsibility and growth in our industry.
Yes, absolutely. Most of the I'm sure you're talking about the customer service role that I had. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A lot of people that were in my course or that had, jobs like that, not in the industry, they were very, upset because everyone wants to get a job in their industry. Everyone wants to get a job in your profession. But I'm sure I made a post about this. I saw it as a way to learn more skills, learn how to talk to people, especially because I was new in the country at the time. And when you're new, there are a lot of slangs and language and body cues that you will not really understand. Mm-hmm. So I was grateful for that opportunity because I was in front of people every single day. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn how to communicate with them, how to read their body language, what to say, what not to say, So I think it was one of the best experience I had when it comes to soft skills and learning how to relate with people on a personal level.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, that little segment of your journey is I'm certain if I were to talk to Gretchen, she would point to that as I did and say that just speaks to how Angel is trying to think and feel about every aspect of who she is and how she presents herself to her clients, to the people that she works for, to the people that she works with. So I congratulate you on that, and I hope it's not embarrassing to you for me to be that direct. But what you have done is a prescription for greater opportunity for success in your career, because it's very clear to me that you understand and recognize, and your words just a moment ago confirm it once again, that it's important that you know the technical or hard content of the job or role you have, to be an architect, to be a construction manager, to be any position in our industry or any industry. But I'm so pleased for you that you demonstrate through what you've done with your journey that you understand that learning how to deal with people, learning how to understand them, learning how to simply to communicate with them to make sure that we have understanding. You figured out that is an absolute key to success.
It is, honestly, it is. And I think I got that from, again, watching my dad, because I used to follow him everywhere. And I would say that he was very technical savvy, but whenever he got to sites, he became this entire different person when he was talking to the contractors and talking to the tradies and the workers. And I really admired that. And I wanted to learn how he could easily, like on any site, he could easily relate to whoever was on site or whoever was working that day. And they were all so comfortable around him. They were all happy that he was there. And that's something that truly inspired me personally to, learn how to relate to people, even in a job like construction, because it is super important as well.
Yeah, and it certainly is. So it's probably fair to say that if I were to ask you the question to think about a great leader in your life, that we've already started talking about that person.
Yes, absolutely. So he's the best.
So, well, and I'm so happy that you are blessed to have that. How would you describe him then in terms of his soft skills? Again, what words would you use to describe him, and why, in your experience, he is a great leader?
In terms of his soft skills, I think I'll describe him as adaptable, because people are different. Human beings are different. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what mood they are in. But he's the kind of person that once he just starts to speak to you and he notices your body language, he just adapts to whatever mood you're in or whatever situation it is. So, he doesn't force his own preconceived notion on anybody, right? He waits to listen to you, and then he adapts to whatever mood you're in or however you're feeling or whatever tone you're using. And it's so interesting to watch, really, because he's like a different, leader to different people, even on site and off site as well. So he's very adaptable in that sense. I think that's the word I would use.
Yeah, I think it's a great word. It was one of the top 10 in the survey that I did when I wrote my book back in 2019. And interestingly, you used it to describe your father as in terms of his leadership qualities. And I agree, it's a great skill, soft skill to possess.
Absolutely.
But it's also interesting that my son, who is 30 years old and is 6 years or so into his career, the quality that he rated as the most important to him was being adaptable. But then when he talked about it in a very similar way that you just spoke about your father, which I find interesting. Just to recognize what you're saying is he paid attention to who the people were that he was talking to.
Absolutely.
Even to again, and I'm sure you've done reading and maybe more learning on emotional intelligence, but it clearly indicates that he was a person who was very socially aware of the as he was interacting with people, which is a critical component of emotional intelligence, perhaps the most significant overarching soft skill to possess. So
Yeah,
your thoughts,
absolutely.
what are your thoughts about the role that emotional intelligence plays in going about our day to day?
I think it plays a very big role. I really believe it plays a very big role. This is me speaking out of the industry now in our day to day, because again, we are very much people facing, right? We are human interaction is a big part of our day to day, and you as an individual have to learn to be able to speak to people kindly, and not just that, like be in tune with whatever they're saying or whatever situation that they are in. So being able to navigate this human interactions and talking to people, and get yourself out of trouble as well if you've gotten into one. I think it's a big part of our day, and it's something that everyone should at least have an idea how to navigate. I think
Mm-hmm.
everyone should. It's a skill I think people should learn.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we're not always taught emotional intelligence really, but I feel like it's something that you should at least make an attempt to
Mm-hmm.
learn, to try to teach yourself, to try to understand body language, understand contextual clues, and know how to navigate that really. But not everyone can do that, or not everyone is taught to do that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and one of the fundamental things that I talk about quite a bit is what I refer to as the ultimate core competency, and that competency is communication. The
yeah,
ability to communicate in using a variety of methods and doing it in a way that provides the opportunity for a mutual understanding, better decision making, better problem solving, and probably again the thing that was the reason that I wrote the book overall, and that is the importance of understanding your qualities as you go
hmm,
about communicating, because your words and your actions are what other people see and how they come to know you. And if they don't like what they see or what they hear, then they're not going to want to know you.
true.
So let's talk about. I'm curious. You went through your college education, your advanced education in both degrees were earned in Australia.
My first one was earned in Nigeria. The second one
Okay,
was in Australia.
okay. So the architecture degree was in Nigeria,
Yes, it was.
and then okay, good. In either of those curriculum, did they have subject matter like communication or things of that nature in their curriculum? Do you remember?
No, I don't. I think the closest course module that we probably had was professional practice.
Mm-hmm.
But even that wasn't like it wasn't communication, but it was just basically like contracts and law and all of that. So there wasn't really any modules dedicated to communication. Maybe whenever we had to like face the jury or give um, class presentations,
Mm-hmm.
that's the only time you really had that environment to get better at communicating and presenting. But even then, that wasn't like a
Right.
formal work or assignment setting. So it
Right.
doesn't really, yeah.
Yeah. And those two, when you're presenting in front of a jury or making a presentation, was part of the feedback that you got from your instructors or professors around not what you presented or spoke about, but how you presented or spoke about it.
I mean, I would say that now I do get that feedback because when I was in uni, I was very shy. I was very introverted.
Mm-hmm.
I had a stutter. I still stutter, but it was worse then. So I wasn't the one to always make the presentation. I could prepare the slides and hand it
Mm-hmm.
over to whoever feels the boldest to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't really get much feedback then, but now I actively strive to putting myself in front and making
Mm-hmm.
those presentations and talking to people, things that I normally would not have, done. But
Mm-hmm.
now as I'm, growing and advancing in my career, I've realized the importance of that, and I realized that that's something that I genuinely want to get better at. So now I
Mm-hmm.
do get feedback that I communicate very well, which I'm very grateful for.
Yes, you do. In fact, until you mentioned that you stuttered, you hadn't stuttered, And as soon as you mention it, you had a little quick stutter, but I didn't pick up on that at all. I think, I'm enjoying this visit with you in so many ways.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that they wouldn't be able to tell that I was shy or introverted when they meet me, and I'm like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea who I was.
So do you still, I guess you would still fundamentally, because we're talking about one aspect of your personality, using things like the Myers-Briggs spectrum, where they talk about introverts versus extroverts. Do you, in that sense, do you still consider yourself to be more of an introvert than not?
I know I'm not an extrovert. Mm-hmm. I'm not that. So I think I'm in the middle, but I still lean more to being an introvert, because on my own, I'd rather just be on my own and do my thing. Mm-hmm. But I realized that, I still love talking to people. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy having conversation. I get tired easily because, that's not my first pick. But I do enjoy talking to people. I enjoy meeting people. I enjoy, having conversations and talking about things, just not for a very long period of time. So.
Yeah. Well, again, I think what we're talking about is it's so fundamental to enjoying career progress and success, and recognize and manage yourself around the things that are harder and easier for you. So it's a little bit harder for you, probably even today, to get up in front of an audience of 100 people, but you can do it. And just based on how we're interacting right now, and that's one of the reasons we do the video, even though we're just going to drop this as an audio, because I was told that that's better because people listen to this in their car and do other kinds of things. But it was important to me for us to have this opportunity because as you know, and you demonstrate a very clear and fundamentally sound understanding of the most significant part of communication, which is the visual nonverbal part of it. What your hands are doing, what your eyes are doing, as you talked about it earlier. So you fully understand that, and it's something that as I teach people, even yet today, folks that have 20, 30, even 40 years in the industry, we're talking about communication and what's the most significant aspect or part of the process of communicating, and some of them are actually almost stunned when I inform them that all of the research says that the majority, in some cases, depending on the research, it could be even the vast majority, 65, 70% of the meaning of what goes on between two people in the form of messages going back and forth through conversation, through emails, etc. The meaning, what it feels like to the other party, is because of the visual nonverbal part. Words are important. How they're spoken is important, sure, but it's all the stuff that's going on right here that is a big part of it. Yeah, and you get that. You get it magnificently. And so again, I feel like I'm congratulating you for things that you already know that you should be congratulated for.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, it's for me, this is a Saturday night special. I don't normally do these on Saturday night, but or a Sunday morning special for you. All right, so wonderful conversation apart, but we're already going to run out of time because I can now think about some of the things we want to talk about.
Okay.
So let's open the next part of our conversation with the following. You are a young Black female in the construction industry.
Oof. Yes, I am.
All right. So those are three very interesting words. And I use them only in a descriptive way. You can't argue that you're young. Again, you graduated from your first undergraduate program in 2017. So that would suggest that you are somewhere in your mid to late 20s. Is that accurate? Okay, I don't need to know that. But that's the young part. You are Black. That's a fact. I'm white, and so we'll accept those facts. But lastly, you are a woman, and as we have this conversation, which will be an evergreen conversation, because even though progress is being made, we got a long way to go. But when you think about those three things that are are descriptive of you. What do they mean in terms of how you view how you're going about building your career in the construction industry? What do those three considerations mean to you?
I think so. For me personally, these three parts of my suggest it's like it serves as a reminder for me to always, do more. Like you have to do more. You have to do more. Especially because while I was in uni, again, I was still new in Australia. I knew I wanted to be in the construction industry, but I couldn't find anyone that I could talk to about it. I couldn't find anyone I could relate to online. And I was new, so I hadn't built up like the network and connections that my peers had. So I literally did not know anybody. I would go online and search for people, and I might get a response, I might not get a response. And some people that I met, they were quite helpful, but they weren't immigrants. So they did not understand the specific struggles that I was facing. So when I graduated and I started my own career and I started working, all I kept thinking was, you have to do better. You have to do more. You have to show up more. You have to, you have people who have the same questions that you had while you were in uni, and you need to put yourself out there. You need to get better. And I think that's one of the first things that made me learn how to communicate better, made me learn how to speak better, how to, not get shy in front of a crowd when I'm talking, because I knew that personally I had so much work I needed to do. I had so much more that I want to give, and I would not have been able to do that if I didn't build those skills. So, being young and being female in the construction industry for me was it's just like a light bulb in my head that just keeps blinking every single time, that you cannot afford to make some certain mistakes. You cannot afford to not show up when you are needed to show up, or even when you're not needed to show up, but you have to show up every single time. You have people who want to come into the industry and they don't know who to ask, or you have immigrants and young Black women as well that want to come into the industry, but they don't know how. So it's like a constant ringing in my head that I have to be better. I have to show up. I have to let them know that there are so many pathways into the industry, and it's not just for men or like strong men and all the things that people say. So for me, it's always been a constant reminder in my head.
Yeah. It's interesting because I didn't think about this. I mean, so you added a fourth fact about you, and that is you are an immigrant to a country. So one could argue that those are so significant. How do I overcome them? Or they could simply say, these are things that describe me. And there are other things. You may, I don't know. You may be a great athlete in some sport. You have,
bad at sports.
You're okay. So you're bad at sports. So we'll drop that one off. But I guess the one that I think is the one that kind of fascinates me. Because there's a lot of work going on, and I can only base it based on my knowledge and experience in the U.S. construction industry. But some of the things we're talking about, everything we've talked about so far, are not defined by country borders and boundaries.
No,
we're talking about an industry, and where there's a differentiation in that industry, a portion of it is going to be based in the culture of society in the country we're talking about. So that's a factor. But when you get past that, then it's just about a bunch of people working in the same industry, trying to build things. That's what we do. All right. And we know from a growing quantity of research, we know a number of things. And I'm going to focus in on the women part. We know that by and large, women, in terms of their brains, are wired in a fashion that they really should be running more companies than men run. They should really be. I mean, again, that's what the research says, and I don't dispute it. I happen to be blessed knowing some incredible, women throughout my career life. Gretchen Gagel is one of those who you've connected with.
Gretchen.
Yeah,
Love
and
her.
if you're building a relationship with her, you're building a solid agreement in your foundation. I have others that I want to connect you with as well that'll
Gladly,
follow this
please.
conversation. And a couple of them are coming on my podcast over the next couple of weeks for recorded conversations because I think it's so important that we see the obvious, and the obvious is. That in our industry there is not a balance in our industry between men and women, and it's going to take another generation or two to achieve it. I think, among other things. But the women piece is the one that encompasses, again, there are women of different colors. There are women with different cultural backgrounds. There are different women from different countries. There are women who are immigrants, et cetera, et cetera. So that, pulling the pieces under that cover, if you will, is an interesting place to go. And there has been some good progress. The women in the construction industry, I don't remember the exact title, but you're a member of a women's related.
NAWIC. Yeah.
NAWIC, okay. I think Gretchen is actively involved in that in Australia as well. But that's a good place for you to be. And there are other places. But I think that, one of the things that I think is important for us to be able to have our audience hear is to hear about how a woman of color, a woman who's an immigrant, how a woman who's young, and again, when you put all those together, that's an impressive set of elements that describe you, and all I want to say, based on what I know, a bit from a short conversation exchange with Gretchen, but what I see is, and I would be saying this regardless of a number of these elements, but what I see is a person who has begun to pursue the opportunity to make a difference in the construction industry, particularly for young people, for people transitioning, and for women. Was that a fair way of describing what the journey you're on?
That's pretty spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said in your own introduction, you talked about that my curiosity led me to fall in love with the construction industry. Love is a word that I use. I use it in the context of talking about what it means to people, starting with oneself and their relationship with their environment. My mentor is a guy named Steve Farber, who's written a number of books on leadership. And in his first book, he brought a set of phrases into what has become common usage for me. In fact, I say these phrases out loud or share them. In fact, they're in my electronic signature. And the phrases are as follows: do what you love in the service of people who love what you do. Do what you love in the service of people who love what you do. I'm sure that resonates with you because that's what you're all about. I mean, again, tell me if I'm misreading anything that you wrote about yourself and your view of you and the life you've had. I think that's what you're all about. You love what you do,
I do.
So, is love a word we should be using in talking about an industry and talking about professional services provided to clients in an industry? Should we be using love in that?
I mean, I always believe that everyone should love what they do. You should love what you do. You should have some level of affection for something that you do because, things I really like your career. Your career is something that stays with you for a long time. So even if people aren't there, it still stays with you. And if you're in a career that you don't particularly enjoy, or you have no affection for, or you don't connect with, it will be hard. I think it will be hard. For me, it will be hard because I like to do things I enjoy. I don't know how to do things I don't enjoy. I would struggle if I don't enjoy it, So I'm blessed to be in an industry where I genuinely love. I love all aspects of it. I want to learn all aspects of it if I can, honestly. And it's something that I've enjoyed from uni, from growing up, like I said before. So I believe that everyone should at least have a level of affection for the career that they've chosen or the profession that they have chosen or that they want to, get into. You should have a certain level of connection with it because that's what would motivate you and keep you and, help you to grow. Because if you don't like something, you will not want to get better at it.
Right.
Yeah. So to be successful in your career, to even get better at what you do, you have to have a level of affection or a certain level of love for whatever chosen profession you're going into.
Yeah, good. Very well said. So a couple of maybe quick questions as we come to the end of our time together. And don't give it a lot of thought. This is for the first question. What do you think is the most important quality for a leader to possess?
The most important quality? I think empathy. Yeah. I mean, off the top of my head, that's the first thing that came. Empathy. If you cannot relate to the people you're leading, you would be a very disconnected leader. So you would be thinking A, everyone else is thinking X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. Because there is no, you're not able to empathize with, I hope I'm using the word correctly, but that's what's in my head, You're not able to empathize with the people you're leading. You're not seeking to understand them, their grievances, what exactly they're struggling with, right? Mm-hmm. And for a lot of humans that I have come in contact with, we tend to follow people that can solve our problems or, empathize with what we're going through. That's how we build. That's how we connect with people. That's how we connect with people online, in person, our friends. You're like, oh, this person spoke to me, or I understood where this person was coming from. So there has to be that connection. So as a leader, if you cannot empathize with the people you claim to be leading, you cannot understand what they're going through at all, or the little grievances that they have. It will be difficult for you to motivate them or inspire them to constantly follow you, because even they will feel the detachment. You might not, because you think you're doing the right thing, but they would know that you are far removed from whatever it is that they're even talking about. I think that's one of the important qualities a leader should have, in my opinion.
I can't think of a better way to end this very short conversation. But I think your choice is outstanding. I agree with it in every way possible. And again, it's just something else that I also look at you in terms of your generation. I'll say in closing that your generation is the hope for the future of the construction industry.
Yes.
My generation is hopeless. And I don't mean, but I'm a baby boomer that's on the way to my last boom, and we don't have bad intent, but some of us are still holding back. We're holding our industry back in ways, and so I look at your generation in particular and say that I believe in my heart that it's a generation that's going to take the construction industry to a new place. A place that's going to look at all the people in the industry and think about how they all can be part of the industry, which is a reference to inclusion as a social matter. They can treat people fairly, so we don't have to deal with discrimination and bias and all those other harsh realities. And that's what social justice is about. And that they can do that with caring, which is another term that gets around the motivation for a person who wants to empathize, is because they care about the people they lead. I think you have a brilliant and bright future ahead of you. I know that our paths will cross again. And so I want to thank you so much for joining me on the Soft as Steel podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I was so excited to be on this, honestly. So thank you.
Well, I hope a lot of people that are in your community in Australia and your professional community have a chance to hear what we talked about, because I'm sure they already think well of you, and this will simply help them understand why they think so well of you.
I hope so too.
Take care, my friend.
All right. Thank you so much for having me, Dennis.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for joining us today for this episode of the Soft as Steel podcast with your host, Dennis Doran. Dennis is the author of Soft as Steel and a leading speaker and trainer for organizations across many industries and verticals. To learn more about the work Dennis is doing to activate soft skills in the workplace, contact him at DennisDoranSpeaking.com. Be sure to check out his book, Soft as Steel, on Amazon or wherever books are sold. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or wherever you'd like to get your podcasts. And please remember to share this episode with your friends, colleagues, and anyone you feel would benefit from the conversation. We'll see you next time on the Soft as Steel podcast with Dennis Doran.
Produced by Audivita Studios. Connect your voice to the world.